Hi, this is Reese Roper, and you're listening to our newest podcast ever.
Hey, everybody, this is Andrew and John, and we love this podcast because it's about us.
Welcome to Magnified Pod, the second season, our newest podcast ever. And my evil plan to save the world involves a Wookiee, a motorcycle, and a whole lot of whiskey. I'm Andrew.
I'm John.
And this is our podcast, episode 3 of our newest podcast ever.
Yeah.
Getting back into that rhythm. Feeling good.
That's
Feeling excited. Feeling like there's a lot to look forward to here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of albums to cover, a lot of different bands to cover. And I'm mostly disappointed that I'm not going to be able to be at the MXPX 5 Iron show in Atlanta this weekend.
Yeah, it's tough.
It would have been so nice to kind of like start off the podcast by getting into, that 5 Iron community and seeing some familiar faces and kind of hanging out again. But it's not always in the cards.
It could be that much like the season 1 culmination, season 2 could culminate in a beautiful, similar 5 Iron show.
Dude,
so we'll see where this year takes us.
I'd be super into that.
Yeah. What you drinking over there tonight?
Oh, that's a good question. But first, one thing I want to do is all these people who are going to be going to the show.
Yeah.
Call us. We have a voicemail line.
It's
Email
true.
us.
Yes.
Tell us your experience. Tell us some stories. Call in with some of your most memorable 5 Iron sets or shows or whatever. We want to hear. That's why we're doing this, to be a part of the larger 5 Iron community. So
Where can they call us?
You can call us at 872-762-4763. Did I say that wrong?
No, you got it right.
I got it right.
And you can also email us at magnifiedpod@gmail.com.
Yes. So speaking of some voicemails, John, we got some voicemails from some of our Patreon punks. Number 1, and I believe number 2. I think the Dannies were the first. I can't remember. I might be robbing somebody of their second spot.
If you are intrigued by this Patreon punk lifestyle and all that it may afford you, you can head on over to our Patreon and see what kind of juicy rewards we got. Patreon.com/magnifiedpod.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start releasing some more of those juicy rewards with this new season.
Hey, I mean, we got some video now. We didn't have that before.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start putting those videos up as part of the.
I thought we'd been doing that.
No, totally.
Oh yeah. We totally emailed them. Just check your email.
I just want to say I'm not totally going to get into this right now, but I'm just going to say I have some stuff going on right now.
Sure.
So some things.
You're not devoting your entire life to this pod? It's weird.
Some things have been a little back burner for the moment.
Yes.
So I will get on that. But so we have some feedback from and voicemails from Danny Leary, from Sadie Hawkins Pod, and Daniel Starrett, aka Danny Stairs, who likes to call in and leave 112 voicemails for every episode.
Yep. Back under the stairs where he belongs.
Yep, exactly. So let's why don't we start off with Danny Stairs with the very first voicemail for the very first episode, and this has to do with our new intro format. So let's hear what he has to say.
Well,
What's up, guys? Your boy Danny Stairs. Calling my first phone call for this episode. Glad to hear you guys back. I'm sure I'll be calling back. I'm only like a minute in. Interesting to hear about the paternity results came in. I suspected Reese was Andrew's father. Just shit up all the time. Glad to hear you guys' beautiful angelic voices again. Really looking forward to what's coming up this season. And hope to see you guys soon. All right. Talk to you later. Magpie for life, motherfuckers.
How I'd missed that sign off.
So this is Danny referring to the intro format where I say, welcome to Magnified Pod, the second season, our newest podcast ever. And in the first episode, I said, and Reese Roper is my real dad.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to participate in this new intro format, feel free to send some our way and we can shout you out. Yep. Your Instagram, Twitter handle, your whatever projects you're working on. Let's get involved with each other and grow the larger community of Five Iron fans. We love it when people reach out to us. So he Danny Stairs rather has another thought about the quality of our podcast.
What's up, guys? Your boy Danny Stairs calling in. Good morning. Just wanted to give a big thank you on behalf of all MagPod Nation for the fact that you guys continue to put out this perfectly serviceable podcast. MagPod for life.
I think that should be a pull quote on our website or something. A perfectly serviceable podcast. Longtime contributor.
Yes.
Daniel Starrett, Esquire.
Yep. After listening to the ep and all that, I did kind of feel a little bit like a dick because perfectly serviceable does sound like, but I didn't mean it to come across.
I know.
Well, speaking of perfectly serviceable beers, I am drinking.
Oh yeah.
It's called Fresh Ink.
Ooh.
This is something that Johnny Potts would like.
Yeah, that label is dope.
It's from Surly, the Minneapolis brewery
institution.
Yep. It is a Imperial Kettle Sour.
Ooh, yeah.
With black currants and blackberries.
I like all those things.
If that doesn't say John Potter, I don't know what does.
I'm down for some #weird beers.
You can send us your weird beers.
Yeah, please do. I'm cracking.
We don't have a P.O. box or anything, but we should.
We should set that up. That's why we haven't gotten all that merch from Tom C and MXPX and stuff.
That's right. Damn it.
So I'm cracking into, I think, the last Magnified hops we have
dang it.
in our stores. It's been a beautiful journey. It is time to get our next batch of fan brewed beer, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out briefly. I didn't mention this to you before, but I found a beer online from a home brewer called Ben Helms, and the beer is called The End is Beer. It's a 5 Iron beer.
Wow, that's amazing. Hashtag get him on the pod.
Yeah, for real. I do not believe it's available any longer, but perhaps we can talk him into it again. It was like a blueberry something. So I'm into that. And then our buddies at 350 Brewing, who we've talked about on the pod before,
sure, yes,
did brew a 5 Iron beer when I saw them at Reggie's a few years ago. So I think they should bring that back.
I mean, there are so many. 350 didn't they
so
do
many punk beers?
They did so many punk beers, and it's about time. It's about time that they brewed some more.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. I used to brew beer back in the day.
Yes.
I went through a phase where my brother and I and one of my other friends, we brewed beer pretty regularly. And I don't know, man, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time I get back and go down that journey.
You living near your brother again? He's going to be a podcast guest soon.
That is true.
I think it's time.
Yeah, the famous Brian Nelson Phelan, my brother, who we have talked about
Like every week.
for a long time on this pod.
Yeah.
He is he's going to be a guest in next week's episode.
Yeah. Mark your calendars.
Yeah, he was the one who introduced me to Five Iron. He's the one who was one of the first times I went to Cornerstone. I was with him, and he's been going through his boxes of memorabilia looking for some old Five Iron stuff and pictures, and he's found some stuff, and he's going to come and he's going to share some of his thoughts on some of our episodes so far and talk about his experience at Cornerstone 99, where they recorded the proof that the youth are revolting.
Hey.
You can, yeah. So
we'll get that firsthand witness account.
Yes, he was telling me some stories about it last night. So,
Right.
but yeah, we're going to need to get some of that pod fodder. Don't want to
So much pod fodder.
He can join John Potter and John Potter's pod fodder.
That's right. It's one of our beloved segments. Yeah, I think you guys need to start brewing again.
Yeah.
And I think we can make that part of the Patreon. Like, you can decide what kind of beer we should brew or something.
Yep.
I found out. So Ben Helms, that brewer I was talking about, go to benhelms.com for more. But the full title was Five Iron Frenzy, the end is beer, - Blueberry Comb 78 Ale.
That's why it was blueberry. I was
yes.
Where does the blueberry come in?
I know. I wanted to look it up because I was like, I feel like there's a reason. So anyway, I'd be curious about that. That's from like 5 years ago at this point, or 6 even. But anyway, props to that guy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to some other voicemails. So Danny Leary called to give us his thoughts on. We had a conversation in a previous episode about All That in the Good Burger movie. I think I mentioned it in one of my fives, and so he called. And he had a little bit of a false start, and I thought it was funny, so I'm just going to play a little bit of that.
Hey, this is Danny of Sadie Hawkins Pod. Oops. There was just someone was just pulling into a driveway, and the other person honked at him. Fuck that guy. Okay.
I thought that was
That's good.
That was pretty great. So here we go. Here's the actual voicemail.
All right, this is Danny calling from Los Angeles from Sadie Hawkins Pod. MXTX memes. You may have heard of me. I was calling up to say about All That and Good Burger. No, I'm not calling about Fourth Wave Ska. That'll be some other time. I'll call up to rant about that. I'm sure I will become the new Danny Stairs anytime you guys mess up about ska. So here's the thing.
Yep.
I'm right there with John. I have never seen Good Burger. It would be a lie to say I was too old for All That, because I was probably like 14, 15 or something. So it's like I was right there in that age where I should have liked All That. But the thing was, I had already been watching Comedy Central from way too young an age, probably, for some of those shows, right? So I was like an early comedy snob. So I'd already seen like Kids in the Hall. I'd seen every, different era of Saturday Night Live. I was watching whatever, The Simpsons, even. That's not Comedy Central, but you know what I mean? So like I had a taste for adult sketch comedy and like proper comedy. So when All That comes out, I was like, oh, this is kind of like for little kids, even though essentially it's probably meant for teenagers. I was like, this is just toothless. So I was a real snob. I never liked All That. And I remember there was an episode of All That where they had Chris Farley on.
Yep.
And that's the only one I really watched after the fact, after I had already given up on All That. But yeah, Good Burger. No, I mean, they had Less Than Jake. That's cool. But no, I did not go see that movie in the theater. Never seen it to this day. For an intro for you guys, I have no idea because we still don't have a proper outro for Sadie Hawkins Pod, so maybe a little quid pro quo. I can't pronounce that.
Interesting.
But if you guys get us an outro, maybe we'll figure out an intro for you. Let us know.
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I can appreciate if you got into SNL
Yeah.
first. I can.
I think I'm in the same boat generally.
Yeah.
I remember watching Comedy Central from so early that it was called "Ha!" exclamation point. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Did you guys hear about this? Do you remember this? Before-
what else? What else going on in the news? What else? You guys see this?
Yeah, before it was called Comedy Central, it was just called Ha! And I watched that. I was a Ha head, and then I became a Comedy Central head. I don't know, something funny for that. So anyway, yeah, maybe I was on the same trajectory as Danny.
Yeah. Well, the I don't know. There's something about I loved also a lot about the absurdity of all that. I mean, of course, there was some of that on plenty of that on Comedy Central, and I eventually, I was probably also watching it because I was obviously a huge Chris Farley fan
Right.
at the same time. And he did that sketch with Kenan Thompson on All That, where Kenan did a segment called Cooking with Randy, and everything was using absurd amounts of chocolate and everything.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
And Chris Farley came on, and they all ended up like covered in chocolate, slipping on chocolate, and
Right.
it's just ridiculous. But funny that this should be brought up because this will relate to one of my fives in a little bit.
Teaser.
Yes.
As far as the quid pro quo, Danny.
Yeah.
Andrew, I'm relying on you. I have not been as involved in the Sadie Hawkins pod movement as perhaps I would have liked because they weren't Reliant K were not my main dudes. I was Reliant K adjacent. So maybe you've got some killer outro suggestions, but I'm coming up short at the moment.
Yeah, we'll
talk.
We'll talk this. We'll take this off mic. All right, we have. Let's just do another smattering of Danny Stairs voicemail. See what he has to say.
What's up, guys? Your boy Danny Stairs again. Calling. I believe you need to make a correction on the first episode about just before 5, right around 5 minutes in, maybe slightly before 4:57. You referred to your first season of Magnified Pod as a labor of love, and that is incorrect. That was a labor of lust. I've seen the look in your guys' eyes when my career takes the stage. And that's love. That's not love. Love waits, but lust can't. I believe I was told that once in youth group. Anyhow, Magpie for life.
Well, there's nothing factually incorrect about that statement.
The lust lives on. I mean, you've heard us talk a little bit about Reese. I'm sure we'll get thirstier as the pod goes on, but handsome dude.
I mean, here's the thing about both Mike Herrera and Reese Roper. They are
hot boys.
They are hot boys. They are fine wines.
Mm-hmm.
They are barrel aged bourbons. Just over time,
soaking in that boozy barrels.
That oakiness, the richness, the texture. The subtleties, the aroma. We are. I don't know. We're definitely thirsty.
We're lustful. Reese is like a real silver fox now. That's working for me.
Yeah. Well, Mike also has those temples are kind of Yeah. He's got it going. He's got it going on. He's got that thing.
Yes. Oh man, we have to explain this. The Phantom Cackler rises again.
The Phantom Cackler. It's been a long time, or a while, if you will. It's been a while. It's been a while. Our last Phantom Cackler call, man, it has to have easily has to be maybe
last summer somewhere.
last summer. Yeah, the Phantom
Yeah.
Cackler. For those who are new to the pod, this unknown person that we have affectionately referred to for the past year and a half is the Phantom Cackler, aka Mike Moen.
Right. Yeah, that's an inside reference. It'll take a while to unpack.
Yeah, but he just calls and he doesn't really say anything. He just sort of cackles, if you will.
As we were prepping for the recording tonight, I was like, man, I really wish we would get a call from the Phantom Cackler. Like, it's too bad he hasn't called in yet. So this is thank you for saving that for me.
I was holding out.
I'm so glad he's returned, and may we never know your true identity.
Yep, I agree. Let's get one more Danny Stairs here.
Good morning, loves. Your boy Danny Stairs. Loved Andrew's story about using Combat Chuck in his drama class, so I want to share a little story of my own. When I was in undergrad, I was in a telecommunications class, and one of the things we had to do was film a commercial for just a fake product or whatever. So I had been in high school. I was in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I played Puck as a
Perfect.
skater. So I still had these furry pants that I would from time to time wear, primarily because my ex had this huge aversion to hair, so I thought it was hilarious to wear them because she didn't like them. I don't know why it didn't work out with me and her. In any event, I came up with the idea of this commercial that opens up with a tight camera shot on the pants, and of course it starts playing "These Are Not My Pants," and then it shoots to a wide angle, and I point to this camera and say, "But they could be your pants," and then I forget the whole spiel. But the thing I remember most about it was, like, I had a specific, 3.5 seconds of time that it was supposed to play the song and be focused on the pants. But the guy who was working the sound just kept fucking it up. And I kept yelling at him. And eventually I had to kick him off of the sound controls because he couldn't do it right. As if this was like some big production. It was just some commercial nobody would ever see. I wish I had video of it.
Me too.
And I may somewhere, but I would have no idea where to even start looking for it. But so I just want to share my little 5-iron undergrad project. And, if you want to buy those pants, I'll see if I can get the number for you. All right, Magpie for life. Love you guys.
It's incredible that you guys found each other.
Me and Danny Stairs.
Yeah, there aren't that many people in the world who devised classroom-based dramatic projects around 5-iron songs. So,
yeah, I imagine there's a small group of us.
There are literally dozens of us.
We are the Never Nudes of
Yeah.
5-iron drama class projects.
Perfect.
I
want to say I knew about the Puck thing because Danny is wont to wear costumes to shows.
Yes.
Including a battle dancing unicorn with glitter at 5-iron shows.
I think for those who have been to a 5-iron show in recent years, you may actually know Danny because because he is he wears like a kind of a blue glittery-ish wig with a unicorn horn and guy liner and lots of sparkles, and I think he at one show he may have thrown glitter up in the air and pissed a bunch of people off. So
I want to say some element of that costume is left over from him playing Puck, or maybe he just told me about playing Puck. I don't know. Anyway, hats off to you, sir.
Yes.
Hats and pants.
As long as they don't smell like Bobby's farts.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Yeah. John, do you want to do the 5?
Let's do it.
All right. This is the 5. Drop it.
They're eating her. And then they're going to eat me. Oh my God!
This is just this intro to the 5 will continue to get more and more absurd.
I love it.
Just because. So John, we're talking 1998.
Mm.
What's your number one? What's your first 5?
All right. I hope everybody's ready for this.
My
I got
body's my body's ready.
I'm so glad. I got my first job, and the job was working at a movie theater. I've probably talked about this on the pod at some point.
Maybe.
But it was my job all throughout high school. I got it when
Oh.
I was 15 and kept it through like right until I moved to Chicago to go to college. And it's funny looking back because like I was like, oh, I have to go to work today. I have to watch movies all day and eat all the popcorn I can and drink soda and eat candy and basically just like hang
this
out.
is like the ideal John Potter job.
It was perfect. I watched so many movies, including in 1998, right when I started, Titanic was like hot shit.
Yeah.
And we literally had like lines around the block for like weeks.
13-year-old girls.
Yeah, just going nuts at LDC. So, yeah,
Did you sleep on the floor down at LGC?
that's right. Oh man, not enough MXPX references. I need to get back into that groove. But yeah, that specific time of working there is especially burned into my brain because of Titanic and what a like sensation that was. But yeah, in retrospect, it was like the best job ever, and like I didn't really have to do anything, and I would just have friends come in all day and we'd watch movies. And anyway, it was a good time.
Do you ever think like, why are you not doing that now? I mean, aside from the hours, the pay,
Right.
the insurance, you
Yeah.
know, all that stuff.
There are days when I'm like, what do I really want to do with my life?
John,
what I want
this
to do.
this is the question. Oh, God.
Well, I mean, and so my answer is I just want to watch movies all day. That's really all I want.
Yeah.
I don't think the salaries for most movie theater jobs are able to support the family that I have at this point. But, you know,
Right.
maybe I can get creative.
Yeah, I mean, and all I want to do is like put on records all day and listen to music and talk
Yeah.
to people about music.
I'll do that too. Also good. Which, you know, my aim and still sometimes job is music and movie critic, but like I don't want to write about the stuff. I just want to listen to music and watch movies. I'm too lazy to do the next part. So
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of halfway there with
yeah, I just want to pod about it. That's all I
Yeah,
want. Just
fair.
give us $60,000 each per year, and we're good to go.
Yeah, who wants to who's going to give us the seed money?
All right, that's the next level Patreon.
Yeah. That's
Full time salaries.
if somebody's independently wealthy, hit us up magnifiedpod@gmail.com.
And we'll maybe give you some videos of our pod recordings.
That's a fair exchange. Well, I'm gonna piggyback off that because it's appropriate to what you were saying. Also, in 1998, Saving Private Ryan.
Oh
came
yes, I
out.
watched it in the theater many a time.
Yeah, and it was my to my memory, my first rated R
Oh yeah,
movie in
it's
a
an
theater.
intense one.
Yeah, and I'm pretty fully confident that I went with my dad because I was too good of a little boy to sneak into a movie.
Sure.
I totally would have felt guilty about it. But it was intense and definitely one of those experiences where you're just like, am I ready for this?
Yeah, that opening is like legendarily super violent and intense.
Yeah.
So that's a throwing you into the deep end of the swimming pool as far as R-rated movies go.
Yeah.
Are you done with that?
Yeah.
Anecdote? Okay.
That was just my anecdote.
Okay, I was gonna say that
I
leads.
I also did see Titanic in the theater
Of course.
that year.
Yeah.
You know, so I was just like, it was like one of those things where like people won't shut up about the movie.
Right. You had to go.
And so I just like, I had to go. And yeah, it didn't especially, it was, I saw it once. I mean, I heard about girls at my school who were like just went
again and again and again.
again and again and again and again.
Yep.
And it was literally that one time in 1998 was the one and only time I have ever seen the movie.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess I've seen it a few times over the years, but it wasn't as meaningful for me as many of the youths who I was tearing tickets for, who were coming to see it
Right.
again and again.
Well, I mean, I'm more of a Terminator
T2
and,
baby.
and True Lies James
True
Cameron fan.
Lies. Yeah.
How good is True Lies? Problematic in many ways.
Yes.
but
Yeah.
How good, how funny is, oh gosh, it's so good. It's a classic. Anyway,
It's a good movie.
I digress.
Good director. I was just going to say that leads nicely into my next item, which we're still on movies here.
Sure.
No more movies after this one. But I did sneak into many an R-rated movie, including Rushmore, which came out that year, which was like
Sure.
a big movie for me.
Mhm. That doesn't
and
surprise me at all.
no, that sounds right. And it was my golden birthday that year. My birthday's on March 15th, and I turned 15. And me and my friends went to see The Big Lebowski in the movie theater.
Nice.
And that was an all-timer. So anyway,
Yeah,
props to that.
there were some good movies that came out that year that I didn't end up seeing until some years later.
Right.
I had this conversation with my brother last night about how interesting it is that we grew up in the same house, went to the same church, and it's just that we both had such different
Yeah.
religious
Right.
and theological experiences.
Yeah.
In the way that I had this idea of what was the moral thing to do,
Right.
or like what was the Christian thing to do. It just weighed me down a lot more.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of like the idea of like sneaking into a movie that like it felt like too much.
Yeah. Sure.
And I'm probably sound naive, and I was probably a little naive, and it's like it's not that big of a deal if you bought a ticket or something and you go into another movie. Like who really cares? But
Yeah.
or maybe in John's case, you weren't buying any tickets, but
Oh no, I would buy tickets. I'm not a demon. I remember distinctly buying a ticket
you
to.
wouldn't steal a car, would you, John?
I know we've talked about this too, because of like every time they say that, I mean, like if I could download it, I might. Yeah.
Now you literally can download.
Yeah, I guess I could like plastic 3D printer. Yeah, print out a car.
Yeah.
No, I remember distinctly buying a ticket to 101 Dalmatians, the like live action movie, and then going in to see.
They didn't buy that for a second.
They're like, wherever you're going in the Mall of America row of theaters where nobody's watching, you can go wherever you want. But I went in to see Scream. This was when I was 13, and oh
Yeah.
man, that was a momentous day. What a great movie!
Oh man, that movie traumatized me as a kid.
She's stuck with the Dalmatians.
I was such a delicate
Yeah,
flower. I've never really liked horror movies,
Sure.
even though that one was like sort of winky
Sure.
and not
winky
like
winky.
and yeah, I just was like I was not ready for Scream.
You were a dandelion.
I was a
and,
dandelion.
The Lord saw flowers in those weeds, delicate flowers.
I so desperately wanted the Lord to see the flowers in my weeds.
Yeah.
So I also last week you talked during 1997 about how you started high school.
Yes.
In 1998, I started high school, and it was also not a great
Not the best
start.
time.
No, I was. So I had a series of friends at each sort of school transition, like going from. I moved to the Chicago area in 5th grade and didn't have any friends. Made some friends my 5th grade year, and then they moved. So I started middle school without a lot of friends, and then by 8th grade, some of my friends moved and or went to other schools. So I started high school without a lot of friends. And I tried to join the football team as a show of like, I'm gonna, don't tell me I can't do this.
Yeah.
And then it was an unmitigated disaster. So I didn't make it to a game. I quit like after like a few practices. I was just like,
Okay.
I'm like, what am I trying to prove here?
But you made it onto the team.
I made it onto the team, but they were
pretty good.
pretty much had to accept everybody.
Okay.
And
Were you playing a particular position?
No, I didn't even make it that far.
Okay.
I was just like, I hate this. What am I doing?
Yeah. No, I think by the time I was in high school, I was done with organized sports,
Yeah.
at least as a participant. Okay. Well, my number 3, kind of along those lines, I talked about my journey into beginning high school a little bit last week. I had some gothy leanings. I had
Sure.
long, dark hair.
James Yeehaw hair still.
James Yeehaw hair. But by 98, it was a whole new scene, baby. So I cut my hair off, cut it
Nice.
short, and I bleached it. And
Yeah,
that was my look. Moving more into the ska pop punk world. So that's
Yeah.
Johnny's hair corner
yeah.
for this week.
I definitely bleached my hair. Maybe it was my sophomore year of
Okay.
high school. So
Yeah.
probably around the same.
Right. Trajectory.
Yeah. I was like, I needed to redefine
Yeah. Right.
myself for my sophomore year. I was like, I'm going to come
Fresh
back.
start.
I'm going to
Yeah.
come back punk.
Right. It
So,
all worked out.
Speaking of punk,
Yes.
let's talk some of the albums that came out
Yeah.
in 1998. Some of these albums are still super important to me.
Yep.
Some of these albums still slap, and I still listen to them to this day.
Yep.
Hello Rockview by Less Than Jake.
Good one.
Great one.
Yeah.
Good one.
I thought you were just blowing through them, and I was like, good pick.
Hello Rockview is amazing. Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo by MXPX. Of
Heard of it.
course. Yes. It's all right. Refuse, Shape of Punk to Come.
Yeah.
So amazing. Still such an amazing record. God Damn It by Alkaline Trio. And this one doesn't necessarily hold up. The first Scalaluya album by The Insiders.
Yeah.
But but like I fucked with the Scalaluya albums. I'm not gonna lie. So that was my like Minda ska. I am a super Christian, and this is the blending of. It was also during a time where I was like trying to find as many punk covers of worship songs as I could.
Sure.
So
I was playing some of those in my band.
yeah, you were.
Yeah, maybe it's time for another spin-off pod for the Patreon or something, because Supertones were never super my jam, but maybe we can go through one of those albums or something like that.
Yeah, Brian and I listened. We were listening to Supertones Strike Back last night, and I'll say this about the Supertones. I have a lot of the issues I take with the band are going to be how heavy-handed they are with a lot of the lyrics, which is
Right.
fine. They're primarily, they lean more worship than they do anything else. But I gotta say, the melodies and the horns specifically in the Supertones, they did a great job coming up with really memorable horn lines.
Yeah.
And I think musically the Supertones are great. Just the first album recording was not super good, but I think musically the Supertones hold up. I just think the lyrics at times are just make me a little bit
Right. Yeah. It would be interesting to go through. We should consider some possibilities for a side pod.
Yep.
Okay. My number 4, I will also do my albums. I'll stick with 5. But yes, Slowly Going the Way of the Buffalo. We have gone through that one extensively.
Yep.
Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Yep.
Big record.
Yep.
Massive Attack, Mezzanine. This was a big album for me. Beastie Boys, Hello Nasty,
Yep.
also a big album, and then Dropkick Murphys, Do or Die. That might still be my favorite of theirs, but I was very big into the Murphys for a while, and I like that record a lot.
I didn't get into Dropkick Murphys until what was the album that came out in?
Like the Warriors Code? Is that the...
No, it was Gangs All Here.
Oh yeah.
That was, what year was that? That was 99. So that was the first album of theirs that I heard.
Okay.
That was the next year that I first heard.
Okay. Yep. Also a good record. Yeah, I know they kind of had a new second wave appreciation with the Warriors Code record.
Right.
That had the song that was in like The Departed and stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. Shipping Up to Boston, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
Heading Up to Boston, our side podcast is coming up soon. Be on the lookout for that.
Yep. The Warriors pod, if you will.
Yep.
So May 14th, 1998, I was one of the 76 plus million people that watched the series finale of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Were you a Seinfeld fan? Were you a Sein fan? A Sein head?
Of course. We've discussed this on the pod. Yeah, I was at a play that night, but I was videotaping the finale at home and raced home to watch it and was kind of like baffled. And I've sort of come around to appreciating it, but where do you stand?
I think probably a little bit in both corners. I think it was an interesting way. I think I remember hearing maybe Larry David and others talk about how the expectations were so high that there was
of course.
There's like almost literally nothing they could have done that would have pleased everybody. And I thought it was, in some ways, it was kind of subversive to be like, look how shitty these people are.
Right, yeah, they're not good people. They're going to prison.
These are not good people. They're all selfish and self-interested. And it's like, and these are the people that you've been watching and laughing with for so many seasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was sort of like a bizarre way of ending the series, but yeah,
it was unexpected, but that's in keeping with Seinfeld. It would have been boring if they had gone with like a more traditional sitcom ending. Like, it's one of those that we're still kind of talking about because you're like, that was something.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to end with kind of a bummer, or at least more of a sort of serious one for my number 5.
Okay.
But I've talked about this a little bit in the past on the show, but we've talked about where our walks with the Lord have gone up and down throughout the years, various times of spiritual wandering occurring at different phases of our journey. But this 98 was when I like fully lost my faith and was definitely like searching and in the phase of exploring world religions, and like went to a Buddhist temple and checked that out, and just kind of like reevaluating the world. This was, I was at a Christian high school, and it was having the opposite effect on my faith of like really pushing me away from it. So I was very much exploring for these next couple years. And then by high school, kind of found a new way into my faith. And then, so anyway, a lot of those kind of like, spiritual questions or moving away that people start having usually in college or in their 20s, I kind of had earlier and came out the other end by the end of the high school experience. But anyway, it's an interesting year to look back on for me, because I was like, I just remember that feeling of really kind of searching, which is maybe partly why 5 Iron was still working for me so well, because kind of questioning and being on the journey is definitely part of their deal. Yeah,
man. Thanks for sharing. That's I think it's super interesting, because a lot of my searching happened so much later.
Right.
And again, this is something we have talked at length about
Sure.
on the pod. And I don't know, maybe we get back into it at some point, because my theology is, at this point, is sort of, it's a very flexible,
Mhm.
it's at a very flexible place. Like,
Sure.
I really connect with ideas of non-dualism, like Richard Rohr, and I really appreciate the inclusivity of his kind of theology, and
Mhm.
and the not thinking about God specifically as a deity and a prayer answering machine, and like,
Right.
and there's something that I really find compelling about his book, The Universal Christ, and I
Mhm.
think we might have to get into that.
Yeah.
As we get into some of these later Five Iron albums, I think there are some social issues and other things that come up in some of these albums that I think might be worth tackling and maybe discussing a little bit more at length.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That was a 5.
Well, I got one more.
Oh, how could I forget? Let's hear your 5.
So this is kind of going back full circle to talking, Danny Leary talking about all that, and Comedy Central, because December 1st, 1998 was the premiere of Comedy Central Presents. And this is when I first started getting into actual stand-up comedy and hearing sets from comedians, and like watching these comedians, their 30-minute sets or whatever, and and so it wasn't necessarily in 1998 that I started following every single one of these comedians, but it was through this series that I eventually discovered people like the iconic and forever memorable Mitch Hedberg.
Yes.
And how he's one of my all-time favorites, and Patton Oswalt, and Dane Cook, and Jim Gaffigan, and Brian Regan. These are like some people that were some of like the earlier comedians that I was like, these guys are hilarious, and I really love them. And so that series was going into my high school years and early into college. It's like finding more and more stand-ups that and Dane Cook, and I'm not Dane Cook, but Mitch Hedberg is still, to me, one of the greatest losses in comedy in my lifetime. I just felt like he had so much more. He had so much more that he could have done.
For sure. Weird to think about Dane Cook and like how huge he was, and what a like footnote he's become at this point, right?
It's
weird.
It is a little bit bizarre. I think he unnecessarily got a lot of hate. I think there was a lot of people who were because he like sort of became like a rock star comedian.
Right. Yeah.
And his style of comedy he wasn't subtle. That's not his thing. Like, he was just super over the top and absurd. And like, I found him funny. So,
we may be returning to that whole idea of purity gatekeepers in the scene.
Ugh.
And, he started doing like these huge arena tours and
Madison Square Garden, I think.
Yeah. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, man.
Good. Number 5. Sorry, I cut you off early.
No, that's all right. That was officially the 5. All right. Should we take a break and then come back and talk about quantity as job 1?
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
we're back.
Smooth.
We're smooth. That jazzy AF intro.
Mm-hmm.
All right, John, we're back. We're talking quantity is job one. LOL.
Okay. Can you explain to me what is that an expression? What does that mean?
Well, it's supposed to be quality is job one.
Okay, so that's like a thing.
Yes.
Okay.
The joke is that it's you got to put out as much as you can.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense because there's also a propaganda compilation from around the same time called Where Quantity is Job Number One. And I was always like, that's too much of a coincidence to not be some sort of variation on something. So anyway, thank you for clearing that 20-year mystery up for me.
Yeah, it's I'm curious. I don't know where the quality as job one came from, like where that kind of. But yeah, that's the joke.
Network.
So,
it came from the Ford Motor Company. It was its tagline for many years. There you go.
Super memorable.
Yep.
That we no longer can remember and associate it with a brand.
Yep. I just think of punk EPs.
Yep. I'm a big Propaganda fan. I was actually thinking about them recently in the sense that I'm thinking, who are we going to get albums from this year? Are we going to get a 5-iron album this year? They've been teasing it. I would really like it. That would make us happy. And it would help our track record of starting a podcast and then getting an album from the band that we started doing a podcast about.
We are marketing geniuses.
Yep. So I'm saying Propaganda, they put out an album in 2017, kind of waiting. It's about time.
That's right.
Get those punk jams going. Anywho.
That's our tagline. Here at Podpaganda.
Nice. Or we could, where quantity is pod one. I don't know.
Yep. Also good. That's better.
Okay. Do you want to talk about this record?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Let's do it.
Let's talk about this record over here.
I'm going to stay away from doing that because
is this an EP over here?
It is. This is EP. It may be an EP, but they certainly pack an LP's worth of content to wrestle over here. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in this one.
And what's interesting is you look on the back, and it has 8 tracks. They list the 8, and it's only when you open it up that on the inside insert they list the Pants
Rock Opera
as track 9.
There are a lot of songs, and there's a lot of just like heavy themes. There's a lot to unpack here. They didn't kind of do a throwaway EP.
No.
So this came out November 3rd, 98, which this is quite a track record. Okay, so Upbeats and Beatdowns came out November 96. Our newest album ever came out November 97. Quantity's Job 1 came out November 98. That's a lot of records back to back to back. Well,
it's almost like Quantity is Job 1.
Exactly. That's how I've always thought about it because I knew what it meant. This again came out on 5 Minute Walk, produced by Masaki Liu. Last 2 records, but this was the first one that was distributed by EMI, as opposed to the last couple records were produced or distributed by Warner Brothers. And I don't know anything about that other than anytime I think about EMI, I think about the Sex Pistols song. That's like EMI. I don't know about their experience being on EMI. That's all I got for that.
Sorry, not super familiar with that jam.
It's a good one. Go check it out. This was this hit number 14 on Billboard's Heat Seekers chart. So that's pretty good.
Ooh, Heat
It,
Seekers.
yeah, that's right. Blowing
Uh,
up that chart.
I don't know what that even means.
I think
How is that different than like any of their other? How do they quantify what a heat seeker is?
I believe it's like up and coming acts
Ah,
on the rise.
well, I thought our newest album ever hit the
It did.
top 100 or 200 or something.
200, yeah. So I don't know what
That's-
constitutes
You know,
a heat seeker and when you can be a heat seeker.
Can we talk about how Billboard released like their top songs, like
Mhm.
top rock songs and other songs of the decade
Mhm.
recently, and how it was hot garbage?
That's so weird. I expect so much cultural integrity from Billboard
Oh,
typically.
gosh, it was a disaster. All of it was. They were like, how do they define rock music? And it was all a joke.
Well, what's not a joke is that it reached number 12 on the Christian chart. Pretty good.
Nice transition.
Thanks. Nailed it. Yeah, I don't know. I had a tough time with the top 3 for this one.
Agreed.
I would say every song, besides a cover, which we'll get into, is a top 3 contender for me. I like them all, and I had a really hard time deciding the order. So I'll be very curious to see how we line up on this one.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm willing to go out on a limb and say, at the top of the show,
Uh-huh.
at the top of this segment at least, that we are going to have the same top 3, maybe not necessarily in the same order, but I'm pretty confident.
Okay. Well, I really wavered on a couple of them, so we'll see.
All right. Should we jump into it?
Let's do it.
All right. The first song, My Evil Plan to Save the World.
I have an evil plan to save the world for every man, and I think it's better than the way it's being run. Oh, the groundwork's laid. No, don't be afraid. I'm sure that I can fix it when I figure out the physics. My evil plan to save the world. Just you wait till it's unfurled. It'll go down in history. It's prophetic. No, it's not pathetic. I can't believe I made it up myself. I have an evil plan to save the world. You understand the exact.
It's my number 3.
Okay. So it's just barely my number 4.
God damn it, John.
This was the one that I wavered on the most.
You ruined it right at the beginning.
And I had a
I
feeling
was
that
so confident that this would be at least your number 3.
I had a feeling that this was the one that was going to be like, because you were like, I think we're going to be in the top 3. I'm like, well, you would expect this one to be in mine. I don't know. I think when I like thought about the record without really diving into it, I assumed this one would be in my top 3. I like it a lot. Ultimately, I kind of like, I don't know, I'm really curious to hear what you think about sort of the themes in it, because I kind of wrestle with it and what it's saying. And I think at this stage of my life, it kind of slipped out that top 3. But I mean, so yeah, I should say I love it musically. That opening horn part is great. I think, there's lots to unpack here. Like, so Reese in an interview said that the song is about, quote, all of us that have ever thought that our own small minds could come up with a plan greater and more perfect than God's. And I, again, I appreciate that he's sort of including himself in that. There's the sort of like self-deprecating, pointing the finger at yourself aspect, which I appreciate. But when it's getting into lines like starving children in pain, you can't believe in that God. I don't know what you think, but for me, it's like on the one hand, it sort of lends itself to an argument of, well, there's starving children in the world, but God planned it that way. And what, you think you know better than God? Like that kind of thing. But, on the other hand, I think it does honestly wrestle with, or at least pay lip service to something that not many like Christian bands acknowledge, with the idea of suffering in the world being the reason that people cite for not believing in God often.
Right. And I do think this is the same side of a different side of the same coin, rather, for like with where 0 meets 15.
Yeah, sure.
Sort of wrestling with the same kind of
being overwhelmed
with the prospect of like, what do we do with some of the world's biggest questions? What do you do with poverty and children who are like suffering for no reason? And it, in this little section, it almost sounds rather kind of dismissive of like people who are like, it's the problem of evil. That's what this is to me, the theodicy, if you will. How do we reconcile the problem of evil? And I don't think, at least in my view, and I don't think I've ever heard a philosophical argument that has satisfied that question for me.
Right.
And so to be like, oh, well, just because it's not going your way, not just because things aren't easy, that doesn't mean that God doesn't, isn't in control or doesn't have a plan or something, which is like, if that's what he's saying, it's pretty dismissive and reductive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that, I can get behind it if the argument is saying, the fact that there's suffering in the world doesn't have to be a reason to not believe in God or believe that there still could be a good God who loves humanity.
I think if anything, I think it is the most convincing argument to not believe in a God.
Right.
And I think what he's saying specifically is you can't believe in that God.
Right.
Which I think is semantics to get around.
Yeah.
I think because I hear people say, well, I don't believe in that kind of God either.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's then resolve this, age-old question for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the question of faith. So it's a lot to unpack in a 3.5 minute ska song, but right. I love that they are trying to wrestle with it.
I love that he takes a stab at it,
Totally.
And I think I'll give it to Reese, to very publicly put your theology out there, to be out there forever. And he has, and this is going to be a case when we look at All the Hype record, some of the stuff that he's talked about there, he really tried to like do what he thought was best and right. He wrote from where he was at.
Right.
And so to have a snapshot of your theology forever on record, it's tough. But I admire the hell out of him for doing it.
Yeah, for sure. And as we said, it's a banger. It's your number 3. Like it's a great song. Oh man,
the bass rules on this song.
It's really good.
Lyrics aside.
Yeah, I think it's just ultimately it's like I couldn't just, and even as a kid, I remember sort of not bumping on it, but sort of wrestling with like, so what are they really saying here? And I think this time around it was just like I couldn't just rock out completely freely because I was like, well, what are we really saying here? I don't know. I mean, I think if the ultimate conclusion is sort of regardless, it's up to us to address the suffering in the world, like right. I think that's something we can all get behind. if that is where it's going, then I'm good with it. But anyway, I don't know. It's complex. I would be curious to hear what other people think. I do really love the song, but there's a lot going on in it.
Yep. Send us your thoughts.
Yeah.
And from the problem of evil to all that is good.
Yep.
Where does the misunderstanding come from? Demanding that we be outstanding and then some. Perfection never was a requirement, although some might say we desired it. So then for times when things get old, I might get cynical. I see that I don't see. Do they see you when they see me? In honesty, there's room for improvement. Thoughts may change, the truth be told. A closed mind will leave you empty. Use your mind to use your soul. Alert the press, their dogmas are a mess.
A second song. I mean, I think this EP has some of the sickest bass lines. I'm
Yeah,
just,
for
I
sure.
just, I'm just so all the bass lines on this.
Props to
EP.
Keith.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. This is another very deep one. It's
Lyrics by Leonore.
Leonore lyrics. Supposedly she was kind of reflecting on the Ska Against Racism tour and kind of her actions during that, sort of like looking back on sharing her faith with all these other secular bands on the tour, and kind of wondering how she, how her behavior represented Christians, it's supposedly based on the First Thessalonians verse, like test all things, hold on to the good. And it's
Right.
very much about sort of, having a faith that's big enough to allow for questions, which I really appreciate. So
100% props to Leonore for
totally.
being. I mean, this is one of the things I love so much about Five Iron is that amidst all the silliness and the goofiness and the winky tongue-in-cheek songs, you really get a sense that they give a shit about their faith and about people, and they really do their best to come at it from a place of humility.
Totally.
Where they're not saying like, hey, this is what you need to do. It's like, this is kind of where I'm at,
Right.
and where are you at, and is God big enough to hear my questions, and do I need to have all the answers right now?
Right. Yeah, I love that line about there's room for questions, though the answers aren't all known. I just really, it makes so much sense that these guys were like our favorites, because it's like not many bands have half an EP that wrestles with like theology and the problem of evil,
Right.
and acting out your beliefs, and then half about these not being your pants. Like, it's just kind of a perfect mix.
It's I just don't know. There's nothing not to love
Yeah,
about this EP.
totally.
I love, young Andrew loved earnestness,
Yes.
and I still love earnestness. So
Yeah, totally.
Send us all your earnest feelings about
Definitely.
about anything.
You know what's not
I'm
super
a number 4 on the Enneagram, so
Right.
I am emo AF.
leaning into those feels, baby. What's not super earnest is the video. Did you watch the video?
Yes.
It's very fun.
Yeah, they're like breaking into some sort of random facility that that Micah is like the security guard for.
It's unclear.
It's unclear, but Reese is wearing those, giant
wraparound shades.
giant, like lots of gesticulations,
lots of soul patches and bleached hair, and it's just like it's so super 90s.
It is.
They even do the like Matrix style camera move at one point, where they all like jump in the air and freeze, and then it moves over. It's just highly recommend revisiting that one if you haven't.
Yep, it's hilarious. On to a banger.
Yep.
In a field of yellow flowers underneath the sun, bluest eyes that spark with lightning, boy with shoes undone. He is young, so full of hope, reveling in tiny dreams, filling up his arms with flowers, bright, forgiving, and a queen, running to her, beaming bright while cradling his prize. A flickering of yellow light within his mother's eyes. She holds them to her heart, keeping them where they'll be safe, clasped within her very marrow, dandelions in a vase. She sees love where anyone else would see weeds. All hope is found. Here is everything he needs. Fathomless your endless mercy wait.
It's my number 2.
My number 1. I would not have necessarily expected it to be in my number 1, but I knew it would be in my in my top 3. But the more that I sat with it, I was just like, I love this song so
Yeah.
genuinely.
It's a song that it's weird. I still get emotional listening to this song.
Agreed.
Because it so deeply resonated with who I was.
Yeah.
When I was a person of faith, and how I so desperately wanted, as I've talked about countless times on this pod, just my obsession with sin and wanting to be a better Christian, and having my self-hatred that like, I'm so bad, please God, you have to see that I'm trying, and in all of these weeds that you still think I'm valuable.
Yeah. I think it's similar to what we were talking about with Every New Day on the last up, in terms of just like, like other of their songs that are very close to just straight worship songs. It still really moves me because I think, again, like you were just saying, the earnestness just really works for me. This is probably the best known song from this record, right? That's safe to say.
I'd say so.
That message of God seeing flowers in the messiness of people as weeds, I think still resonates, even if for me, I'm not as hung up on the whole notion of like, am I good enough for God to really love me? But still, the trying our best and failing and knowing that there's unconditional love, I think is still a theme that really is moving to me. And I really love the horn arrangements. The horns just are great on the song.
Oh, just so many horn stabs. I'm into it. So into it.
Yep.
And I think as we talked about Scott's last album, and I really feel like moving into the post-Scott era, you really notice the melodies, the arrangements it's just it's felt.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting to dive into that era.
All right, let's move on. One Girl Army. Oh shit.
Here lies the old myth, breaking the mold with toothpick takeaway. The trick of me. 20 centuries of progress suffer slowly as we regress, losing headway to ourselves. Behold the covers, the sisters, the mothers, the daughters, and spouses on the magazines. Truth has been abused. How could she feel those shoes? Propaganda meant to fuel their schemes. She is sung but never silent, sure of where her truth comes from. One day, one girl army will overcome. Treading the current.
One Girl Army. This is my number one.
Okay, it's my number 2.
Yeah.
So if I wouldn't have had the chance to go through this track by track again, I would have agreed with the 3 songs you chose and probably the order. Like if I would have just guessed, I probably would have gone with the exact same you did. I made a swap for My Evil Plan to Save the World with something that we'll go to. There's not that many choices left.
I mean, I have an idea.
Yeah. But like I said, I really wrestled with the order of the choices. This one is such a favorite of theirs for me. So, and it's another one with lots to unpack.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, I mean, it's an anthem for young girls.
Yeah.
And resisting what society says women should be.
Yep.
Or it could be about Mary.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
or both.
Or both, you know, that it could be, you know, saying, you know, women, young girls, you don't need to be this. You can have your, you can be different, you know, have your own choices. And that giving the power to women to have some sort of self-actualization, but also Mary giving birth to Jesus, who, you know, Messiah, Savior,
right.
salvation.
Yeah, if I would have, again, thought about it without really going back and listening to it deeply again, I probably would have said it's another one that kind of continues that theme of theirs of the marginalized finding comfort in a countercultural God.
Right.
You know, she is strong but never silent, sure of what her strength comes from. That's similar to some of the other songs we've been talking about being meaningful for us as kids, looking for an identity. But I do say, like, now going into it, getting into the lyrics and stuff, I'm like, I don't know if it's quite that feminist anthem that I thought it was. I mean, no, maybe it is. But
I think, and again, like I said, on the surface, you can probably, I don't know. I don't know how much of, like, if there's like a, if I'm reading into like any potential slut shaming, like that might be in there, like, you know, the sisters, mothers, daughters, spouses on the magazines. If that's like, you know, you don't want to be like them,
right?
Or it's saying this is how society perceives and portrays women, and you can be. I don't see it, like, I don't know exactly what angle.
Right. Yeah, I think I used to think about it more just sort of like women up against the injustices of society generally, but looking at it again, you know, I'm with them if what they're saying is, you know, women have made progress over centuries.
But
God
we've reduced them to what they are
Yeah.
on a magazine cover.
right. And I guess it's kind of tough for me to put all of that blame only on magazine covers that
And-
sexualize women.
Right.
Like, or paint an unrealistic image of women, which it seems like what the main focus is. And not that that's not important, but there are larger issues like systemically facing women, I think.
Right.
So I guess
But
yeah,
again,
I mean,
this is in a
Totally, a Christian ska song.
3-minute ska song.
yes.
Like it almost, I feel like My Evil Plan to Save the World is a good sort of all-encompassing theme for
Yeah.
so many of these songs, where it's like the arrogance to think I can
Right.
alone can come up with a solution or an answer or whatever, but like, you know, damned if they're not trying to be part of the conversation and say something.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that idea of,
And I'm not sure what I would have said differently if I would have had a different position, you know, if I had held my theological views that I did at that same time.
right. Yeah. I think for me as a kid, it was easy to sort of think about institutional sexism in that way, where it's like, yeah, society's unfair gender expectations. You don't have to buy into the beauty norm, which, like, again, not that that's not true, but it's just so much more complex than that. And so I don't know. I like, you know, this idea that they're clearly tapping into that, like, God has chosen women throughout scripture to play some of the most vital roles in God's story. Today we're faced with injustice against women. And kind of, you know, I like the idea of the one girl army, if what that means is that one woman can have the strength to you know, tide the tides of sexism, or stem the tide of sexism. But yeah, it's just that, yeah, there's just so much. I think it's interesting getting into it more, because I think a lot of these I sort of remembered as these political anthems, and as I'm getting into it, they're sort of more conservative in their theology than I remembered, maybe, which is interesting compared to like MXPX, where that was really only the very early stuff that we were kind of wrestling with that with. And I would think I was kind of realizing like, oh, this is probably going to be a theme throughout more than I maybe remembered. But yeah, we should talk musically. I mean, it's just, I love it.
It's a straight banger.
It's a banger. That
Beginning to
intro,
end.
yeah. I mean, those aggressive horn parts just get me so hyped immediately with that hard rocking melody. And yeah, it's this is one that as soon as you hear opening notes, go nuts. Yeah.
And not just those stabby horns, but the background vocals and the harmonies. It's all
Yeah,
great.
totally.
It's all great.
It is a classic.
You know who else has great harmonies?
Yellow, baby.
Where did you go? I was searching on a one-way street. I was hoping for a chance to meet. I was waiting for the operator on the line. She's gone so long. What can I do? Where could she be? No, don't know what I'm gonna do. I gotta get back to you. You gotta slow down, sweet talking romance. You got me running, you got me searching. Hold on, sweet talking Lola. So sad if that's the way it's over.
You know, I had all your albums.
Yellow, I had all your albums. I don't think I realized this was a cover until like
Nope.
fairly recently.
Oh, really? You didn't
Um,
know that? Oh, I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but I figured it out. Not, I mean, because ELO, like Mr. Blue Sky, Don't Bring Me Down,
right.
um, uh, Sweet Talking Woman, of course, Turn to Stone, Evil Woman. These are all like, I mean, they were pumping out hit after hit in the 70s.
It's true. And I guess I really only knew those first couple well. Not a big ELO head. But I remember, like, maybe, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, hearing this song in the supermarket and being like, wait, why are they playing Five Iron here? And it was this song, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense that this is a cover. And I have to say, I'm sorry to all of our listeners, because I was fully ready to come in with those vocal harmonies, searching. But I realized after listening to the last couple eps that there's a delay in our new setup, and so all my beautiful.
I know it is a bummer that we can't sing along in time because there's a little bit of a delay. I think on both of our ends. I don't know if it's
yours seems pretty synced up, so I'm really relying on you to come through with the deedly dees and the harmonies and things like that. Because
right.
In my heart, I'm trying to do it, but I'm refraining for now.
all I'm saying, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying that when Magpod is reunited,
that's right.
You know,
those harmonies are gonna be sick, bro.
They'll be sick, be tight as fuck, bro. And so, and when we finally get back together,
When I go out, I play the street, I get hit by cars, I make accidentals, I get hit by cars.
My number one with a bullet.
This is legit. I think it's when I think of like the Five Iron joke songs, you know, When I Go Out is a pretty.
it's number one for me. I think it's got to be.
It's great.
Yeah, and we should say Leonore is the main singer of that one these days.
That's
Hey now, I like it. The water's just fine in here.
Love those little picky guitars.
It's so great.
Something stirring in the air, a victory. Time bomb ticking to explode. 3, 2, 1 and go. Something passive, something not. Billy clubs, I'll call the SWAT. Rabid dogs without a leash. Is this how you keep the peace? You want riots, wear your riot gear. You want violence, then shoot some tear gas in the air. Written on your badge to serve and protect. It seemed you only served yourself, protecting your neck. Consoling with fear, menacing and threatening. You want my respect, you better start respecting me. Go and get your riot gear, swing your girly all around. We'll be dancing on the cinders as the town is burning down. Swing your girl around.
And
my number 3.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean it. I wouldn't have necessarily expected that this would be swapped with My Evil Plan, but re-listening to it, I really love the song a lot.
There's the music is so I love it. I love how different it is.
Yeah, it's very swing inspired. It's more in that vein.
Yeah.
And those kind of muted horns and the guitar tone took me back to those jazz band days.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I love it. And it's an interesting choice to kind of make this swing song about defying the police. Yeah, so it's about riot police showing up after the Broncos won the Super Bowl in Denver.
Right.
But I think it's more broadly about an overly aggressive approach to policing in general. Like, you want riots, wear your riot gear. You want violence, then shoot some tear gas in the air. Like, again, it's just kind of remarkable that a Christian band had essentially anti-cop lyrics.
Well, I mean, they say in the lyric booklet, they say, just in case you were thinking the song was intended to be cop bashing, it's not. I think this was sort of like a covering their ass kind of situation.
Sure, yeah.
But like, this is very clearly somebody speaking out on behalf of the way police are. They say, legislation never made you judge and jury. Martial law now. Beat the kids down with no worries.
Yeah.
So great. Yeah, they're calling them out. Say you don't get to act the way you want just because you're in uniform.
Right.
And I do think this is I'm curious what a 2020 Five Iron song about police might look like.
For sure. Yeah, I remember even as a kid kind of being like, wow, there's a lot. This is complex. Like,
for an EP, this is a very densely lyrically interesting, maybe even more so than our newest album ever.
I have more notes for this one, for sure. And I definitely prefer our newest album ever, but like, there's just so much to chew on here. And that's that song is a big part of that.
Yeah. Sick ass bass riffs, bro.
That's right.
Spoken word for word. It may be abominable, but yes, it must be heard. Nauseating at first, you can expect the worst. So listen closely as the plot unfolds. I might stretch the truth, maybe a little lie. There was a boy named Brad. He played trumpet and he died. Too young for him to cease. Why we haven't got a clue. It's on the internet, so then it must be true. The untimely death of Brad. It must have been sudden. If you see him anywhere, remember to console him. I curse the day I ever met the boy. Only good die young, they say.
The bass in this song
It's so
rules.
good. I love it. This song is so fun.
This was like pre-social media fake news, and
Oh man, so prescient.
it's on the internet, so then it must be true.
Yeah, I mean, again, our ongoing theme of like in 2020, this stuff sure seems relevant.
I'm saying, but apparently, Reese just made a joke at a concert
Right.
because Brad couldn't be there, and they said, "Oh, he's dead," and then
Kids are like, oh no.
Five Iron Frenzy would never lie to us.
Right. I just love the idea that some kids like that the band wouldn't be like more heartbroken about it. Just like, Brad's dead. Anyway, pick it up, next song. And just like, oh man, I can't believe Brad's dead. Anyway, Dandelions. Like,
yeah. Brad's dead. Hey, this song's about my favorite 70s sitcom. Let's go.
Right, yeah. Oh man, it's so good. I love also that the little intro at the end of the last track is I believe it's Reese saying "Brad is dead. Let's kill Brad" backwards.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. The untimely death of Brad is an all-timer, and like certainly among the silly songs, but like it's such a fun, catchy song.
Yeah,
so good.
I like it in terms of the songs about their band members. The Where's Micah?
Right, yeah.
Untimely Death of Brad. I do like this song more. I just think
this
slaps.
ranks above. Yep. Agreed.
It's so fast, and the bass is ding 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 ding
Yeah.
ding ding ding.
So good.
All right, so One Girl Army, Dandelions, My Evil Plan to Save the World.
Yep. And Dandelions, One Girl Army, Get Your Riot Gear, followed very closely by My Evil Plan.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose, I also would. Riot Gear would probably be my. But then on Death of Brad, it's hard. Those two.
It's a contender. Yeah,
it's a contender. There's so many.
It's a
contenders.
contender.
It's a contender over here. Okay, so John, those are the 8 EP songs.
Yeah, let's get into the real songs.
Let's get into These Are Not My Pants. So, okay, this is, I guess they improvised these with these random song styles that I don't know where they acquired these. But they seem like probably one of those royalty free Casio keyboard style,
right.
Something that you would like just press like the demo on your Casio.
Yeah, it's so great. Each member was assigned a style, and then they improvised in the booth, which is pretty awesome.
All right, so let's go with let's start with Leonore with the. We're going to listen to pretty much the whole all of them because like the whole thing, because you can't miss a second of any of these songs.
Oh,
the best.
Hat tip to Leonore.
It's so great. So we are doing a top 3 pants.
It's also not make the cut.
It did not make the cut for me.
No, me neither.
Even though I love it so dearly.
Yes.
And it's just onto the Meatloaf version, which is Dennis.
Yep.
Well, I'll never forget when I saw you standing there wearing pants. You were all alone. And I thought to myself, man, I wish I had those pants. But the problem was, those weren't my pants. I don't know whose pants they are, but I want them. I only know that I want them. So why don't you come over here and rock, baby? Oh, hold on to me tight, baby. Oh, yeah. And keep wearing them pants, 'cause I love you.
That is Meatloaf.
It's my number 2.
It's your number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
It was I would say it's probably in my top 5.
Okay. Yeah, I just as we've discussed
the opening line, I'll never forget when I saw you standing there wearing pants is objectively comedic genius.
Yes, it's just
I'll
I'm-
never forget when I saw you standing there wearing pants.
I'm immediately on board with that. And then, yeah, as we've discussed, I'm a huge Meatloaf apologist, particularly.
Are you?
As, well, we've talked about this.
No,
that,
we
like,
have not.
We haven't?
We are learning. I'm learning about your James Eha hair this season. I'm learning about your Meatloaf apologist.
I'm almost positive we got into like Bat Out of Hell.
Nope.
I Would Do Anything for Love.
Nope. We talked at length. We've talked at length about your love of
Def Leppard.
Def Leppard.
I thought in that episode I mentioned that at the time, I mean, like, I Would Do Anything for Love was like my number one all-time jam.
Oh, man. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that.
I mean,
I was also kind of drunk during that episode.
Correct. I think that's true, but maybe it's all just kind of mushed up in my head, that glorious era of early 90s completely over the top pop rock.
Just like super ballads.
Yeah. And Meatloaf is a mess of a person. But those first couple Bat Out of Hells, boy, they really do it for me. And once he gets to, those weren't my pants, I'm just like, okay, I'm in, number 2.
Reese Roper.
Well, these are not my pants. I don't know whose they are. They smell a lot like Bobby's, 'cause he likes to fart. Well, these are not my pants. How did they get in here? Well, I'm filling up with fear, 'cause these are not my pants. Thank you. I'll be at the Grand Ole Opry tonight.
This was so close
Yeah,
to
it's
being in my
close.
top 3.
I wonder what order they did these in.
I don't know.
And like when they decided that they would all be about pants. Like, did somebody just first say, because I could see this being first and Reese just kind of talking about them not being his pants, and then they just went on a journey. But yeah, the fact that he introduces the idea of Bobby here, then that becomes an ongoing theme is really something.
Yeah. All right. Now we're on to Keith.
These are not my pants. Whose pants are these anyway? These are not my pants. Whose pants are these anyway? Are these Bobby's or Timmy's or Billy's pants? No, no! These are not my pants. Are you listening to what I say?
I mean,
This is my number 1.
okay, I figured it might be. It really comes together in the ending for me.
I love the affected, like echoey, reverby vocals.
Totally. It's definitely, I have to assume, a callback to Exhumator, which was the industrial thrash metal Christian band that Keith and Reese and Micah and Scott were in before, and Andy before I ran for him.
I love I just love the pained screaming.
He does that
Are
for a
these
while.
Bobby's or Timmy's or Billy's pants?
There's Bobby's. Yeah, so great. Are you listening to what I say? So good.
Man, so amazing. Now, Andy. Oh shit.
Pants. I'm talking about my pants now. I got my pants on, and I'm chilling, but they aren't my pants. These are not my pants. That's what I gotta say. I ain't wearing no pants. I got Billy, Bobby, Jerry, Philly, Dilly, ooh, chillin', pants, ooh, little bit of ooh, pants now. That's what I'm trying to say. Ooh, that's what I'm trying to say. Yo, don't step this way. I got my pants. Oh, yeah.
That's my number 2.
My number 3. Shout out to Andy. Wasn't sure he had that in him. It's pretty.
Man.
Once he gets to ooh, then I'm fully on board.
I ain't wearing no pants.
I'm wearing no pants.
And on to Brad's reggae.
Come on, people now. This is the time to unite over the revolution of the pants. Right now is the time. Now, who holds the pants? And whose are these pants? Will we ever find the home for the pants? Come on now, unite under the revolution of the pants. Yes. Right. Now.
It's most underwhelming to me.
What? No, it's my number 1.
No. What? What?
This is where the real controversy comes in.
No, this is objectively, I feel like, is the most underwhelming.
I disagree so heavily.
Okay, explain to me.
It's time to unite under the revolution of the pants. That's wonderful. And the fact that he makes it like this political anthem, and that he's like, now who holds the pants? I mean, I just, once he gets into, I like that he's taking it to a level of making the pants a real sociological question. You're not getting there with me, but
I don't know. It felt a little like it was like part of an idea. I don't know.
Oh man, I hear you, but I'm down for uniting under the revolution of the pants.
All right.
These are not my pants. These are not my pants. These are not my pants. Bobby! Bobby! Bobby's pants. These are not my pants.
That feels the most underwhelming to me.
It's silly, and I think what sells it for me is
Bobby.
I mean that, and these are not my pants. Just like the delivery is just silly.
Yeah. This stretch is kind of a questionable white men doing decidedly non-white sort of musical accent stretch, but you know.
Well, not so much for Micah.
Check one, check. Yo, Bobby and Billy, you out there? What's up? Yo, me and Bobby, we was walking down the. Yo, we didn't have nothing to. We had our pants on, but yo, these ain't my pants. I'll get them off now. Tight. Oh, they so tight. I be my. Ouch. Ooey, ooey, eat. Billy, Timmy. Hello there. Yeah. 'Cause we in the street. Talking about the Bobbies and the Billies out there, and they tight pants on. You got to loosen them things, man. Loosen them up. You know what I'm saying? Word up. What's up? Yeah! What's up? Hey, what's up? This is Bobby and Billy. Oh, yeah.
What's happening?
In the studio, Compton. C-O-N.
That one feels the most egregious to me.
It's my number 3.
Okay. It's just like, by the time he's like, I'm like, what? Is this a reference to a hip hop thing?
No, I think the part with like, I just thought that like all of the beeps when I was a kid, I was like, this is inspired. This is genius.
It's pretty good. Micah, shout out to that dude I didn't necessarily expect he's ready
got
to
bars.
just, get those bars out there. So that's the pants. These are not my pants, the rock opera. I don't know that we confirm definitively that it's Bobby's pants.
Or
I
Billy.
was or Billy, but I always kind of took it that way in the Cha-Cha one when Scott is like, Bobby's pants? Bobby! These are Bobby's pants. I was kind of like, oh, we've discovered whose they are. But that might have been a narrative I
also,
invented.
Reese says they smell a lot like Bobby's.
That's true.
Because he likes to fart.
I guess we knew that from the beginning. They are Bobby's pants. All right, well, Bobby, hit us up.
Let's get to the secret track.
Let's do it. There's a couple of them.
Yep.
Maybe we don't need to hear every When I Go Out version.
Are you ready? Are we recording? Alright.
Hi kids, Fire and Frenzy. When I go out.
When I go out, I get hit by cars, I play in the street, I eat rats and then I make it like cars!
Solid one. Now let's do it several more times.
So I would just want to I'm assuming all of the unnecessary yelling in the background is Andy.
I sort of assumed that as well.
When I go out, I play in the street, I get hit by cars, I make rats and then I make it like cars!
Yeah, it's definitely Andy.
It brings me so much joy.
I like the going back and forth
let's
between
do it
eat mashed
again. Come on.
potatoes and make
When
mashed
I go
potatoes.
out, I play in the street, I get hit by cars, I make rats and then I get hit by cars!
Let's do Kingdom of the Dinosaurs.
Okay.
Rip off your face of the dinosaurs is
Kingdom of
also
the
inspired. Rip off your face.
I also like where he later apologizes to the parents.
Sorry, I apologize to any of the parents of the kids who bought this album, and to the kids and their pets for having to listen to this. Especially this song.
At least,
Oh, man.
at least he's aware.
That's right. And that's Quantity's job. What?
That is Quantity.
What a journey.
Yep.
Oh man. So where do we land in your pants order?
What did you say to me?
Let's talk about your pants order, bro.
talk about my pants order, bro.
Yeah. Where do we land in your pants order?
Heavy metal, R&B, and rap.
Okay. At least we agree on R&B. I was reggae, controversially Meatloaf, and R&B. So
Yep.
let us know your top 3 pants tracks.
Let us know, are they Bobby's pants?
Yeah. Could be Billy's.
Or are they Timmy's? What's going on? I ain't wearing no pants.
Oh man. We should do some kind of variation on a pants song at some point during this endeavor. All right.
That's
it. Should we close it out?
Yeah, let's close this out.
Let us know your thoughts. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Weigh in our community. Be part of the Magpod Nation. we would love us. We would love us. We do love us.
I would love this.
Yeah.
I love this podcast because it's about us.
Exactly. We would love it if you would rate and review us if you're digging this, and go ahead and smash that subscribe button. That definitely all helps us out. Get us Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, all the places. You know what? I just heard that Spotify is now the number one podcast destination for people.
Oh shit! Well, hit us up on that Spotify.
Which is interesting. Yeah, get us over there. And then also, let us know your thoughts at magnifiedpod@gmail.com. If you want to send us an email, again, we would welcome your MP3s, your videos, your song lyrics, your pictures of 90s ska, Five Iron, a Jace, Glory.
Your terrible 90s ska band.
Yes, please.
Or your great 90s ska band.
Yeah, please get in there.
And you can give us a call at 872-762-4763, 8727-MAG-POD.
We, as we mentioned previously, do have a Patreon. We'll get some of those Patreon punk perks going again. But check it out over at patreon.com/magnifiedpod if you're so inclined. And we do still have some tasty season 1 design merch at magnifiedpod.storeenvy.com. Well, next time, as teased, getting that BNP, that Brian Nelson feeling up in here.
Yep.
And unfortunately, time is winding down, but only for this ep. But we want you to be found enjoying the next ep when we'll cover proof that the youth are revolting. Perfect.
Well, these are not my pants. I don't know whose they are. They smell a lot like Bobby's, 'cause he likes to fart. Well, these are not my pants. How did they get in here? Well, I'm filling up with...
All right. We don't need any more pants.
No more pants.